Our mission: Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful, and you did a great job. And I'm going to go ahead and read Susanne Wilson's bio, but before I do, I just want to say, as you all probably know from my story, that Susanne Wilson is a very close friend. She lives here in Carefree, Arizona. I live in Cave Creek, Arizona, and she was definitely the first person that I met on this journey, and I was very lucky to do so. It was back when it was a little bit easier to get a reading, but I did have to wait for about 2 months before I was able to. But she was one of the most beneficial things that happened to me early on my journey. She also was going to be a keynote speaker at this second conference. She was a keynote speaker at our first conference here in Scottsdale, and she raised over $13,000 for our scholarship fund to go to the conference for parents who weren't able to attend. So anyway, we're very grateful to Susanne, and I'll go ahead and quickly read her bio. Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium, is an intuition expert, teaching medium, author, and an empowering keynote presenter at international conferences. Susanne appears on Coast to Coast AM, Gaia TV, Travel Channel, Good Morning La La Land, Amazon Prime Video, Fox News National, Unity Radio, Streaming for the Soul, CBS Radio, and numerous podcasts. Susanne hosts a monthly podcast called Chat with Spirit Guides. She is a founding board member emeritus of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and its founding director of mediumship research and education. Susanne holds a master's degree in public affairs policy, a bachelor's degree in management, and certifications from Stanford University. Calling upon her extensive experience in education and leadership, Susanne has become a beloved researcher and teaching medium in the areas of intuition, mediumship, healing, and metaphysical topics. Please visit carefreemedium.com for more information. And I just want to let everybody know that that Morgan has a very special relationship, my son Morgan, with Susanne, and I feel very grateful for that. And anyway, also, I just want to let everybody know that having Susanne here in Phoenix has been a huge blessing for Helping Parents Heal, because she's come many times and done gallery readings for all of our members, which is always amazing. But without further ado, I don't want to keep her from you. Please welcome Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium.
Hey, thank you for the introduction. I've got Barron with me just for a little bit. Usually, if I'm here at the office, because I actually have an office, I would take him home if I'm going to do something at night. But he was here today because we had a distant healing session with Deborah Martin, who many of you know. Right now, somebody's standing outside my front door talking, and he wants to go get them. Not because he's a dog, but because he's such a sweetie pie. Have you guys ever noticed that your pets, your dogs, cats, whatever pet you have is looking around at spirit like this all the time? Ever notice that? And they do, they're spirit spotters. So this guy comes to the office with me, and he'll play with spirit kids. He'll help bring through pets sometimes. And it's funny, as a schnauzer, most schnauzers, if they saw something out in front of the door, like right now, like he did, they'd be barking their heads off. Anybody have that little yappy terrier at home that just barks no matter what? But this guy is really pretty calm. And so when he comes to the office, I've had people deep in grief and they're sitting in a chair across from me and sobbing. This little guy walks over, lays his head on their leg, and they start reaching down and petting him. And eventually they just stop crying and they feel very grounded and centered. So he's got a job here. And his healing was he's only 4 years old and his liver is enlarged and he's been a little bit sick. And so we're looking for some good news coming up pretty soon. I'm gonna go let you go play or take a nap, buddy. But I really feel like our pets can be healing angels on the earth. And many of you, you not only have a child on the other side, but you also have a child and a pet on the other side. And I hope that you're all very much aware that the pets go to heaven. And a long, long time ago, when I was a little girl, I would stand with my preacher granddad at the end of his sermon on Sundays. You know how everybody leaves the church and they stop and they shake hands with the reverend. And so I'd be standing next to him. And one day, someone said, "Preacher, my dog died." And my granddad said, "I'm so sorry to hear that." He says, "Preacher, I've heard that animals don't have souls, so they can't go to heaven. Is that true?" And my granddad, without missing a beat, said, "Well, let me ask you this, would it be heaven without your dog?" And so that was my first introduction to, you know, everyone goes together, everyone reunites in the other world. What I really want to talk with you about today, though, is my topic, which is when your partner doesn't believe. I'm sure there's a few of you who has a partner or other loved one close to you that doesn't believe as you believe. And on my website at carefreemedium.com, on the very first landing page, there is a paper that I've authored with Dr. Victor Zamet and Wendy Zamet that can help you. It's just like 13 or 14 pages. It can help you. You can download it for free. Can help you strategize how to coexist with those loved ones who do not believe. And I actually prepared a couple of slides for you guys. I have to tell you, when I was on Coast to Coast this last time, it's a very large radio show that's been around for almost 30 years. And they have, on any given night, anywhere from 3 to 6 million listeners live. And then it's available to subscribers afterwards. I just talked to the producer last week, in fact, and he said he could not believe how the phones lit up with this very same topic. It was, he said, you would think you were giving free readings to every single person that called in. It was that level. And by the way, I don't do free readings on Coast to Coast because it takes me too long. They want it like in 2 seconds and I want to hear the person's voice and I want to tune to their energy for a minute or whatever. But that just shows you the level of interest in how do I handle my partner, my loved one, whoever it is. Whenever I talk about partner, just substitute the word my loved one who doesn't get it, or my loved one who doesn't want to get it. And we're going to work on that right now. So am I good to share the screen, Elizabeth?
Definitely. Go ahead. Yes. Do you know how to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think it works the same as, okay, here we go. Same as when I'm teaching a class or something. If I can see, there we go. Sometimes stuff gets covered up though, but you got to find it. Here we go. So, is everything visible or is anything covered up by anything else?
No, it's all visible.
Okay. Excellent. All right. I chose this iceberg photo because I feel like our loved ones who are here on the earth with us that don't believe in your signs, symbols, synchronicities, dream visits, that you don't feel comfortable talking about those with them because they'll be dismissive. I feel like they're living here on the tip of the iceberg, and you are aware of so much more. I have lost track of the number of times I've heard this. My loved one doesn't believe in the afterlife, nothing paranormal, it's causing problems in our relationship. I need your advice. And I've had many discussions with colleagues when I was on the AREI board, and also with Victor and Wendy Zamet, who published the weekly Friday Afterlife report and have done so for over 30 years. And they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. That is their number one communication that they receive from people all over the world. Of all their subscribers, only 25% about are in North America, Canada, US. So and I know most of you are Americans and there are a few people from other countries, I get that. But I just want to tell you, this is a global issue right now. However, there is hope. What's trending now is that people are realizing that not only has there been proof that life exists after death, that we now have physicians and hospitals that acknowledge the fact that life doesn't end with physical death, that there's a soul. We have scientists who have empirical data and have accepted the evidence for the afterlife. The evidence has always been there, folks. We've just had people that did not want to accept it. So here is the downloadable ebook that you can go and get. I'm going to cover just a few highlights from this book, but it's totally free. And I wonder if you guys recognize this guy. Who doesn't? Albert Einstein. So he tells us there's really only one source of knowledge, and it's probably not what you're thinking. Pure logical thinking cannot yield us any knowledge of the empirical or scientific world. All knowledge of reality starts from experience and ends in it. So everything I say to you today needs to go through your discernment filters, how it feels in your heart, how it resonates with you. And that's true of everything. Okay, so I'm open-minded. If one of you came to me and said, I'm having conversations with little angels that come to me at night, and you told me that what they were giving you and information was helpful, hopeful, and healing, which is the Edgar Cayce litmus test for information coming from spirit being of a discernment of positive energy, something that you can trust, I would say, wow, great. Tell me more about these little angels that are coming and talking to you. I wouldn't judge it. I wouldn't decide, oh, I don't believe that, or, oh, wow, I'm all on board 100%. I totally believe it. I would just be open to that and knowing that that is your experience, your discernment. But I would still be interested in having those little angels come to me too, to have my own experience. So a lot of the times what we're seeing with those loved ones in your life who don't believe or don't want to believe is they have not opened their eyes to an experience that may be right in front of them, or maybe it just hasn't happened yet. So I'm saying cut them a little bit of slack, but here we have one of the most famous scientists of all time who's ever existed saying knowledge of reality, what is real, what we know about what is real. It starts in the experience and it ends in it. So you can do the analysis, you can collect the data, you can replicate it, duplicate it, keep the same things of events happening. That is an experience. But when it comes to belief in life after physical death, experience is the best thing that people can have to understand it. Common complaints that we hear: why are you wasting your time on this? You've got this great education. Why are you wasting your education researching afterlife matters? And the big one, you're spending a lot of money going to seminars, and on books. How much money do you have in these books over here? Anybody heard this before? The next one is, why are you letting these people con you? Dun, dun, dun. And this is the protectiveness coming out in some loved ones. Doesn't science say that when you're dead, it's just done, lights out, game over? And have you joined a cult? Is Helping Parents Heal a cult? Are you guys all nuts? Are they going to make you sell everything and give them all of your money? And of course, we know that this organization operates on no money. You know, donations come in and they go out for the greater good. And yet, you may have a loved one asking you questions like this, trying to protect you. Why? Because they care. They haven't had a personal experience, but there's more to it than that, which we're about to get to. Don't you know you can go to hell? And I will tell you, I'm not, for the purposes of today, going to debate religion with anyone. I don't want to mess with anybody's religious beliefs. Oh, please, no, 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 no. You just heard me say that I grew up with my preacher granddad, and I have had a lot of experience in a couple of different religious beliefs, and the religious communities do a whole lot of good. They not only provide a community, but they provide community services to the homeless, the hungry, suffering, and suppressed. And I'm not going to debate anything about religion, but I'm going to tell you, you have a tremendous resource in this free ebook where Victor and Wendy Zamet have researched the Holy Bible, and they have jotted down and cited all of the instances of mediumship, gifts of the Spirit throughout the Bible. So there's an entire list of those for you if you have a loved one who really wants to read that and look into it further. And contradictions. So again, I'm not going to entertain questions about religion today, but for those of you who are suffering because someone's telling you you're going to go to hell or you're playing with fire and damnation, please look at this information from Victor and Wendy. It might help you have someone at least stop worrying about you. Change can be so uncomfortable. And we all know that there are statistics that marriages break up after a child transitions to heavenly home a lot of the time. I don't know what those statistics are. That's not my topic here today. But when I talk about change and loved ones and partners that don't believe, you are a very particular subset of that group because you have so much stress and pressure and financial pressures. There may be a lot of medical bills or maybe out of work from extreme and protracted grief. And now you're going to tell me that you're getting signs and symbols and synchronicities and dream visits, and I don't believe in that, and I'm married to you, or I'm your other child, or whoever it is. So this is especially difficult for you guys. I mean, you guys pull at my heartstrings already, but when I get emails or phone calls from people saying you're going through, I can't even celebrate the sign I just received with my loved one, and I want to celebrate that with them. Now you're really pulling my heartstrings. So to try to help you get some perspective here, why are you changing is one of the questions I've heard when I've interviewed the other side of the equation, the skeptics. The skeptics in the family will talk to me and they'll say, I just don't know what's going on. I just don't understand what is happening. And am I going to lose you? Are you going to leave me? Are you going to think I am so dumb because I don't believe the way that you believe, that you're going to want to only be with the people that believe the way that you believe? And finally, who the heck am I anymore? Where's my identity? And I'm speaking in terms of that loved one in your life now that is not on board with your being in the group that you're in, you're studying life after physical death. They will, even if they don't tell you, there's some part of them, I will posit, there's some part of them that wonders who they are. What am I missing? Am I missing out on something? Think about when you have, let's say, just for example, a dream visit. and you tell a really close and trusted friend who you feel has earned your trust, and they're very uncomfortable all of a sudden. And you're like, wait, I thought you believed in this. I do, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They may be thinking, why am I not getting dream visits? Does nobody over there love me? And so your role could be to educate them that they have all the same opportunities that you do to ask to connect with loved ones, to keep a journal and be more observant of everything that's happening around them. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone and they say, I don't know why I don't get any signs. I had to wait 2 years to get this damn reading. And now I got this reading and you're giving me all these things, and I know it's for real because you couldn't possibly know, but I never get any signs. And I'll say, well, hold on a second. And I'm asking mentally, what have you been doing with signs? Next thing I'm like, well, what about that cardinal that sat on the windowsill the other day? That was a sign? Like, God, yes. You know, and I'm not kidding you. It's just like that. They're questioning. Some of them do need some education, because let's remember, you know, a teacher of mine said, every soul seems to have the same 1,000 life lessons, if you will. Okay. You don't know if your loved one here right in front of you is on lesson 33, lesson 995, where they are, because there's endless opportunities for the growth of the soul. And I actually have this, this JPEG is from Victor Zamet. I'm not sure where he got it, but I love it. It just shows stepping stones about knowing yourself, loving others, showing compassion, radiating kindness, which I'm going to talk with you about that a little bit more, because that does help with skeptics as well. Patience, yeah, you definitely need patience in this subject area, but we're always growing. Even after our physical transition home, there's things we can learn, there's things we can study, there are experiences to be had. We're never a finished product, so just keep that in mind. Now, let me just state very clearly, nobody has ever disproved the case for the afterlife. Nobody. No philosophers, no famous scientists have disproved it beyond a reasonable doubt. And when it comes to the skeptics that are closest to you, please know that they probably mean well. After all, they are your loved one. It helps to not think about, oh, they're just raining on my parade, or oh, they're so stubborn. They're probably thinking they need to protect you. So keep those couple of things in mind. And furthermore, one of the most important things you can do is demonstrate the inner peace you've found, right? Okay. So if you're arguing to the point where I've heard of couples arguing where it's like they're red in the face, you go sleep in the other room, I'm sleeping here, over this belief and non-belief. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's so counterproductive, because, you know, look at Elizabeth, look at Irene, look at these people who have this light that seems to shine through them. You know, they don't have to argue or prove anything to anyone. You know, it's how you handle yourself. When we are all going to have bad days, okay? But when most of your days are, you can find inner peace, you can go to center, your loved one's going to wonder, what is she having that I don't have? So just keep that in mind and try not to get frustrated. And finally, when they talk about these con jobs, are you being conned? Is it a cult? Are they going to take advantage of you? This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Morris Barbanel's spirit guide, Silver Birch, about whom much has been written, has said how to discern when something is good, when some information that's coming to you is something that is for the best and highest purpose. We never say to you, do not use your reason, have faith only. We say, use that which the Great Spirit has given you. Test us, examine us. If aught that we say is debasing, cruel, or immoral, then reject us. There's nothing in Helping Parents Heal in any of the meetings or anywhere that is debasing, cruel, or immoral. If we seek always to teach you to live nobler lives, lives of greater self-sacrifice, idealism, then surely that demonstrates that the hallmark of the Great Spirit is stamped upon our teaching. So anytime you study with a teacher, you go to a seminar, a webinar, or you read a book, you're looking for helpful, hopeful, and healing, and the own test in your heart of how this feels. And when you can come back to someone who says you're being conned, and they can see the calm and peace within you, you are definitely going to get them to pay more attention. So earlier I said there's never been anyone on earth who has disproved the existence of the afterlife. Well, there are plenty of scientists who have accepted the evidence that's been out for about 20 decades and documented for about 20 decades. And there are those who actually make it their life's work. Now in science, we look at prediction and repetition. Can you repeat it? Can you replicate what, and can you predict an outcome and replicate it? That's the empirical evidence. That's the scientific evidence in double-blind, triple-blind studies. All of these people here, a couple of names you probably recognize because they are of the modern times: Dr. Gary Schwartz, Dr. Julie Bischel, University of Arizona for Dr. Gary Schwartz, the Windbridge Institute for Dr. Julie Bischel. These are people who have not only accepted the evidence for the afterlife, the evidence that's been collected over a couple hundred years, but have also endeavored to collect their own evidence. And having sat with Gary Schwartz over a period of years, and in laboratory settings, in double-blind studies, in triple-blind studies, here in California, in different environments, I can tell you there is nobody who could be more careful than this guy as a scientist. All of them, everything that I read, they are following not only the scientific method, I think they go even overboard. I can tell you, I've been frustrated before participating with scientists where I'm just like, really, you can't tell me how this fits into the big picture? You're not going to tell me anything, because you stay in the blind, as they call it. So this stuff is real. The Windbridge has this wonderful fact sheet, the Windbridge Institute, on the advantages of mediumship readings. And this is also in the downloadable ebook, but you can go right to their website. So when people say, why do you need to get a reading? I don't want anybody to become what I call psychorexic, where I need readings. And it's been one of my things that I worry about. I want everyone to learn how to make their own direct connection, so nobody ever needs to get a reading from a medium ever again. I want the mediums to become teachers. I hope this happens in my lifetime, where mediums are teachers, not readers, and you are getting your messages directly. I understand we have a ways to go. And I understand that it can be one of the most helpful, hopeful, and healing events when you're in grief, to get evidence that no one could possibly know, that could only come from your loved one through a medium. So I do understand that, but don't get readings every month or every week. You should not get readings, in my opinion. This is in my humble opinion. You shouldn't get readings more than once a year, maybe every 6 months if you have life issue questions and things going on, because your spirit loved ones, in my humble opinion, your spirit loved ones want you to grow and have your experiences here on earth, and they're always with you. They always know what's going on. But there's nothing wrong with saying hello to them every single day, asking them however often you want to, for direct communication with you. Direct communication. You could ask every single day. I love that sign the other day. Can I have it again? So here's the advantage of the mediumship reading. Readings can be less scary. If your loved one just all of a sudden popped up right here, fully formed, yes, you'd want to hug them, but your first instinct might be to have a heart attack. So they can be less scary, especially think of the skeptics in the family. Oh my goodness, you know, that could be pretty scary. So a reading is a nice, calm environment. And because the environment is so calm, it makes it perfect for someone who is a grief counselor, a grief educator, or a therapist to recommend a medium that you can go to. And I have several that have done that with me and with my colleagues as well. So if somebody says, I don't know how I'm making these little scratches on here, but anyway, if somebody says, I'm not getting signs, or maybe I'm getting them and I don't notice it, a reading might be the best way to go for those who long for contact but have not experienced it. And the medium never judges any of the information that's coming through. So it's sort of like a safe space. They're not going to say, oh, you didn't know that? Well, you're an idiot, or, you can ask a question and not feel dumb, like it's just a very, very safe and sacred space. The evidential mediums I know that are, that I've worked with, this is sacred work. We take this very seriously. We're not cranking out readings all day long, 5 or 6 or 7 days a week. Most of us can only do 1 or 2, and not even very many days in a row, because we're trying to keep our vibration up, and we are loving the source, and we are so honored to do this work. So a lot of energy goes into this, and not only are we not judging you, we're loving you every minute. Our hearts are connecting directly. I can see, even on Zoom, when I'm giving a message, I can see my sitter, meaning the person receiving the message, I can see something open and bloom in their chest, and I can see the energy start to pour. And there's no greater experience than sharing in that moment of someone else's love with their child in spirit, or whoever they have in spirit. So, this is sacred. This is a sacred practice. And so these are all advantages to having that first reading, or that, in my opinion, once a year only reading. And this is where you can find this fact sheet and print out. There's more details with it. I also have that citation in the ebook online. So basic tips: let your loved one see by your demonstrating how being part of the Helping Parents Heal group, or whoever's watching this, I understand that the group is being very generous by sharing these particular videos on the YouTube channel. So whoever you are watching this, let your loved one see that light shine from within you. Yes, you hurt. Yes, you have pain. Yes, you have better days and worse days. But let them see that you can tap into the peace that surpasses all understanding. And they cannot upset you with their skepticism, at least not for very long. And once you've accepted that greater reality, that there's so much more than this physical world, you can tap into that peace at will. It is a discipline, and it's something to practice daily. Leave a book out where they can find it. One of my favorites is A Lawyer Presents The Evidence for the Afterlife by the Zamits. I'm working on my second book right now, but it can be any book. One of my great standbys is Hello from Heaven by our friends Bill and Judy Guggenheim. It was a seminal book that I've lost track how many copies I've given out, that documented ADCs, after-death communications, quite possibly the most comprehensive book of its time. And it holds up really, really well. And it's a great beginner book where you could just leave it out, where the skeptical loved one might just pick it up. I wouldn't give it to them for Christmas or Hanukkah, because that might lead to an argument. Please don't watch the scary, bad, evil shows. And I say that, and some of you who have been my students, you all know me, I say scary, bad, evil. It's like it's all one word, because Hollywood loves to scare. And that is a huge turnoff. These demon shows and possession shows have been probably the #1 worst setback to acceptance of the evidence of the afterlife that we've ever had in the spiritual community. I'm sure they're entertaining and everything, but be discerning in, what you watch and what you have on, and because that's going to turn them off more than anything else. Now, this has worked with some of our people who they're at that point of desperation with their partner where it's just, we're locking heads. I know the only two people that really understand a relationship are the two people that are in it, okay, in my humble opinion. So there could be lots of things at play, but this could be one of the main issues. So this technique I got a long time ago from one of my psychologists who refers to me is schedule 2 meetings. One, you listen to your loved one's beliefs or disbeliefs, and you can take notes, but you say the ground rules are you talk, I listen, and really listen. And the second one, you go back sometime later on and have them listen to you without commenting. And what this is intended to do is to be heard. The both of you are being heard. Because one of the things that happens when people are locking horns is instead of listening to what's being said to you, you're thinking of your rebuttal. And you see this in conversations anyway, where people are, you can see their eyes darting and they're thinking of what they're going to say next instead of listening to you. And I think that can be a big help. And make an agreement to love each other and to be respectful, because, if you can't be respectful with each other, there are deeper issues than skepticism about life after physical death. And if there's abuse or threats, and I have seen this, obviously there's other things happening. As one of my teachers used to say, one of my very early mediumship teachers used to say, Alan Arcieri, he'd say, love yourself to change the situation, because God knows you cannot change the person. And when I say you cannot change the person, some of you are thinking right now, well, then why this whole big flippin' PowerPoint presentation about changing the person, about getting them to believe what you believe? And if you're one of those people that's thinking that, you weren't paying attention. Because I'm not telling you how to convince someone of something. I'm sharing information that my colleagues and I have gleaned about how others have been able to learn to get along, and about how others have just set things in motion so that their loved one who does not believe can, of their own free will, decide to expand their horizons. I mean, you're bridging a really big gap if you have someone that has any of those beliefs that I outlined earlier and has those fears about you being taken advantage of or something like that. There are people that do take advantage, and that's why discernment is so critically important. But let's not be so worried about winning an argument that we further alienate those loved ones. Believe it or not, your loved ones here on the earth, in their heart of hearts, they don't want to have conflict with you. Most of them don't. The vast majority don't want to have a conflict with you, but they may be having a conflict within themselves. So everything I've spoken with you about has assumed that your skeptical partner or loved one is capable of critical thinking. Okay? What if they're not? What if they don't look at cause and effect, a preponderance of evidence? What if they don't dig in? What if they're not going to do that? I would refer you to, number one, why can't we all just get along? Like, I'll respect your space, you respect my space. Don't force feed them, but they should not impede upon you. But number two, this is where religion can be a big deal. I'm here to tell you, I have given messages to Catholic priests, and actually wrote in this downloadable ebook about Catholic priests just last December telling me about receiving a sign from my Uncle Dan, who was an Anglican priest. I have done readings for nuns, monks, Baptist ministers. And so we're seeing changes along the lines of organized religion opening up and allowing space for the communication between the worlds. And I think the reason that this is happening is because we are getting closer and closer to that time I dream of in my heart of hearts, where everyone who wants to is making his or her own direct connection with their own beloved people and pets in the spirit world. That everyone who wants to can do it, and they will be. Like I said, I hope it happens in my lifetime. And if you have that religious objection, I don't want to get into religion here. I'm not even going to entertain questions about it here. It's a waste of my time because I'm not here to mess with anybody's beliefs. But look at that document that the Zamets have prepared, that where you can find many passages in the Bible that support connection with the afterlife and spiritual gifts and mediums. So a while ago, Elizabeth mentioned, this is what I do. I have a monthly chat with spirit guides, and there's a portion that's teaching and there's a portion of answering life issue questions for people. If you want to see me for a reading, the only way that I do that now, because I'm really focused on teaching, is when people attend the chat with spirit guides or a class. Like I have a class in July, it's on 2 Saturdays. It's called Soul Power, Be Intuitive. It's suitable for beginners. After you do that, I have names. I don't have the list, but we have names on a list, and we send out a communication and invite you when there are openings for readings. But I really would rather teach someone to fish so that they can nourish for a lifetime than just give them the fish. But again, I do understand that it's nice to get that validation, to know that the loved one sees, you know, what you're doing. I totally do understand that. I am just absolutely 100% convinced that you are all mediums for yourselves, and that is something that you can do. But study, keep a journal, write down all the signs, symbols, synchronicities, dream visits, just the date and a short sentence. I now have people who started that with me 8-9 years ago, and they've kept their journals. They can see how they receive information. It's strengthened their communication. And when it comes to those in your life who don't believe, my final thought that I want to leave you with is polarity. There will always be polarity. There will always be disagreement. There will always be conflict, because we grow the most from conflict. Do not run away from it. Don't throw gasoline on the fire, but don't run away from it. If you always run away from conflict or go, ooh, they brought that on themselves, and I've got to stay away from that person because somebody's in the trenches fighting and standing up for what's right, you're missing out. So when you have this kind of conflict in your life, meet it with as much compassion in action as you can, and know that, who knows, in a past life, you could have been the one that didn't believe. I've actually, not only do I do regressions, but I've been regressed and gone to a past life where I was not only the big skeptic, but somewhat of a persecutor of people who believed as I now know. So bottom line is, you are a child of a divine source. You are a forever being of light, and love does live forever. So now I would welcome questions about our topic today, comments or sharing, things that just kind of, you know, vibed with you, anything you don't understand. And I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth and Irene now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susanne. Goodness gracious, that was wonderful. We've gotten a lot of comments, a lot of private comments saying that this is one of the best presentations ever. It's really interesting because I'm sure that it might not be something that everyone was expecting, but it is true that all of us have someone in our lives that might not believe the same way that we do. And sometimes it's hard when we're navigating this beginning of our journey to have people that we can't really express all of the wonderful things that are happening to. So this is great information. And this book that you're talking about, then, it's by Victor Zammit, and it's a PDF, and it's something that maybe I can make available for
however you want to do it. Wendy and I dug into a lot of the research in January and early February. It all came out of, I was going to be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo, and some people contacted me and said that we'd love to see a speaker actually talk about when a partner doesn't believe. Well, I had already submitted my topic to the expo. They have 10,000 people there, and they have to be really organized. You can't be flexible and change your topics. So I thought, well, I'm going on coast to coast. I'll put something together. And I went through my research. Wendy and Victor had a bunch, and we put it together and put my experiences with their research. And it's like 13 or 15 pages only. If you go to carefreemedium.com, you can download it right now. Or I can give it to you however you want. I don't know what my webmaster did, but he made it so easy to get just off of my landing page. And like I said, to have all their phones, like it nearly wiped out their phone lines. So one of the things I've also noticed in working with the scientists, and especially, I work with some physicians too. I have some physicians as clients because I don't just do mediumship and teaching. I also work with people who are growing companies and businesses. And, how do they strategize in human capital and things like that. I have found more and more people in higher levels of companies like CEOs, CIOs, CFOs, who are now saying, yeah, right, there's life after physical death. I get it. And more people saying, I got it. And when I work with the millennials, like from Spirit Guides magazine, I do some work with Arizona Bell, and I've done some teaching for them. The millennials, they're around 30, whatever. I don't know what the ages are that's considered millennial, but they need no convincing. They've already mainly, I think most of them have accepted the evidence for the afterlife. And their attitude is, I want to live this life, my life now, better, so that when I get home, I'm going, yeah, I got everything I could out of it. So it's like I'm seeing this massive convergence of people from different age groups, socioeconomic groups, cultures. I had a woman in India the other day write me and say, this isn't our religion, but we have a statue of Jesus in our house, and it's nothing to do with Christianity, but we love Jesus and we talk to him. And we are getting into a more spiritual world. Now, we haven't even talked about the pandemic and the effect of the pandemic. This is May 8th, 2020, right? So we're in the thick of a health pandemic. And now the questions from the people who are studying spirituality are coming in and saying, did God do this to us? Did God do this for us? Is this something, that is supposed to happen? And the spirit world, what I've been told is the spirit world could see us creating it, but the source did not do this to us to punish us, and the source did not do this for us so that we could grow, but we can grow from it, and we are growing from it if we choose to. But the spirit world saw in the quantum field the pandemic starting to be created. Because everything that we manifest as a humankind here first starts to get structured in that quantum field, in the unseen world. And it's a consequence of all these free will choices. So I think we're standing at the edge of a new epoch in time where if you have the skeptic in your life, and you would love to have them on board with you, you'd love to have them celebrate that feather that you received when you asked for a sign, or you know, they don't scoff at your collection of pennies from heaven or whatever it is. If you'd love to have them celebrate these things with you, I would say over the next year or so is a good time to pray, send them angels of light to illuminate everything so that they can see things more clearly and of their own free will decide, my heart and mind is open, to leave those books and articles that are helpful, hopeful, and healing about the spirit world out where they can find them, to demonstrate your light. There's never been a better time in the last couple hundred years to get people more connected with their higher selves and to get them to realize that they are already connected with God, the source, with each other. And maybe it took humankind to create a big major change so that we can have this huge period of growth. And I'm optimistic about it.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. There are some questions. I was wondering, first of all, Joni is asking, she used to get signs and no one believed her. So she kind of shut down. Is that why she doesn't receive signs anymore?
Can we bring on Joni's voice?
Yes. Let's see. Joni, can you unmute yourself? Let's see if I can find Joni otherwise.
I don't have to see you.
I did.
Oh,
okay, good.
hi, Joni.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So tell me more about, nobody was believing you, so you did what? You shut down?
Just kind of, yeah, just kind of went on shutdown
What do you mean by that? Like you stopped looking, stopped asking?
and stopped talking. Yeah.
There's your answer right there. So your loved ones in spirit are going to answer the call. When you say, you know, send me another one, they will. And when you say, I'm busy, forget it, it doesn't matter anymore, they're like, oh, okay. One thing I want to give you the concept of is I want you to think about a TV on in another room down the hall. Okay, just have that picture. Maybe you're doing laundry or, you know, putzing around the house, but there's a TV on in another room down the hall. To your spirit loved ones, you and your activities are like the TV on in another room down the hall. They're pretty much always tuned in some lower level of interest. But when they hear you're celebrating, or they hear you have sorrow or challenges, or they hear you're asking for a sign, you've got their attention. And it's like running down the hall to check out what's going on. This is where journaling would really help you, Joni. It's not too late to start, but what you could do is think back in time. You won't have the dates and all the details. Make a list now, just a quick list of the signs you used to get and who gave them to you. And then as you sit and meditate, if you have an altar or you just light a candle, the easiest way to make an altar is light a candle. Just light a candle and put it in front of you. And this is sacred space now. Put that list on your altar and say, there, guys, look, loved ones, hello, I'm talking to you. You can call them by name. You can say it out loud. You can say it in your mind. I've got a list here of the stuff you used to do. Can we get back into this, guys? And just remind them, and you're going to be amazed. You're going to be amazed at what happens.
During visits, hugs, waking up crying, knowing that it was real, you know, the joy, I felt it. And it's been 3 years.
Oh yeah, it's time to get back, girl. You need more of that. Where are you from?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Tennessee. I was born in Madisonville, Kentucky, grown up in Tennessee. Mom's living, actually she just moved, but she's in the Nashville area. And if I hung out with you all afternoon, I would sound like you.
Aw.
No, we could hang out. But one thing I want to tell you is I'm looking at you, there's a big gold light that's around your head. And one of the things that tells me is that it literally is heart of gold, that you're in a very high heart chakra vibration. And that means that this is just my interpretation, how I see things as a clairvoyant. My interpretation here is that you can feel spirit pretty easily. It's from the heart chakra, where we have our center of clairsentience, or clear feeling. So another thing I would add to your list, as extensive as it may be, is let me feel you, touch me. And you could spend a minute every morning or every evening just sitting and saying, I really would love to feel you. You feel things, you can feel touches. You just said you could feel a hug. There's no reason why you have to wait and hope it happens in your sleep. And I used to say, you know, one of my friends, Ann Albers, she said this to me. She goes, I used to tell, I think she said this to me or in a talk or something. She said, I used to tell people, sit and ask your loved ones to touch your hand or your hair or whatever. And it could take months. And she goes, and then I would have all these people contact me and saying, it took a week, or it took a day, or it took, you know, however. I don't know how long it would take, but I think you can feel things from spirit. So give that a shot as well. But bottom line is, with the spirit world, you guys, you don't ask, you don't get. That happens a lot. I know some of you get without asking, but for the most part, you don't ask, you don't get. Good
Thank
question.
you.
That was beautiful. And I'll tell you, Joni, you're very lucky to have gotten such beautiful dream visits. So I hope that you will definitely start to ask for them again, so that you'll be able to have them as well.
I have
Oh,
been.
I'm sorry. So
You sound like home to me. I love your voice. I love your dialect. You sound like home.
So I was going to ask another question from Diana, and she's asking about what you think of remote viewing. And I know that you know about that because I've heard of what you've done with remote viewing. So
Remote viewing, in terms of doing it yourself, I give you a real, anybody can use this, real quick and easy way to remote view is to write down the name of the person you want to check on. Like, I will write down mom, and I'll hold my pin where I've written mom and say, Spirit, show me, let me feel. And I could tell you, I've done this so many times, I can tell you if she's feeling good today, if she's not feeling good, if I need to call her, what's going on. I mean, it's a very simplified extrapolation of remote viewing, which is actually very, very technical. We did a little bit of that in a workshop I did in January, but I think our military has proved that remote viewing is something that we all have the ability to do, but some of us develop it even more. And remote viewing, in terms of getting signs in communications, I have had some students who have remote viewed where their children in spirit are living now. You know, they write down their child's name, show me the place where you live, put the pin on the place where you live, and they'll ask in meditation, give me an image, a flash, whatever it is. Sometimes they get it in a dream later. Oh, wow, they've got a place on the beach. They're surfing all the time. And it tends to validate some other evidence that comes in later, like a message from someone in a group reading, or someone else has a dream and, yeah, I saw your son in a dream, and, you know, he was at the beach and showed me a house or whatever. You know, they love to set you up. They love to set you up where you get a little piece, somebody else gets a little piece, and you put it all together and you know that it's real.
that's beautiful. Listen, I think that we have a little bit of time here, and I would just love for you to maybe tell a little bit about how I met you, or vice versa, just so that people understand. I don't think a lot of people have heard our story on here, and it's one of the most amazing ones. One of the things that validates everything that I went through in the very beginning the most is that Susanne did a reading for me, but it was a reading to someone else. It wasn't to me. And she brought through evidence of my son, Morgan, in that reading. Susanne, would you like to say something about that? Or do you want me to say something? It was pretty amazing.
It is, to this day, one of probably the seminal experience that made me realize this is what I need to do. This is my life. It is to bring the messages forward and teach people. I felt Morgan here earlier when I sat down. I was like, oh, I did those slides literally in 20 minutes. and like cut, paste, pull. And I could feel him like standing right here going, this one, move that, nope, change that picture. And I thought, okay, so I was going to tell you that later. But anyway, because it was like half an hour before this, the way that I met him was when I had first moved to Arizona. I had left a corporate job for a world headquarters for a huge retailer. And before that, I'd been a university administrator. I was administrative director for a Center for Leadership and Innovation at a big university. So I'd had these jobs where, you know, they're cushy, they're a lot of hours, they're very buttoned up, and you don't talk about the spiritual stuff at all. But I'd had a near-death experience in 2007, and after that near-death experience, I didn't want to be in that world anymore. And it was real risky to leave that world when I was doing so well in it. But we could not afford to live where we were living anymore with me leaving that world. And we couldn't afford all the cars and boats and jet skis and all that stuff. And I had family living in Arizona. So I was in Cape Coral, Florida. Is where I lived. I lived all over the place, but I'd been there for a long time. And when we came to Arizona, we saw how amazing it is. I fell in love with Carefree. I mean, you know, people are riding their horses around here, but we can get to the city in just a few minutes. It's great. The spiritual energy here, the whole thing. I did not know I was going to have an office, and I wanted to rent a space. I went to a yoga studio that my cousin, who lives here, had been going to because she had a sign that she was looking to rent an office in her yoga studio to someone. And when I made the appointment, I thought my cousin said, she's on board, she knows what you do, and she gets it. And I think my cousin actually thought that was true. But when I got to the yoga studio, it was anything but. It's like, what's a medium? What do you do? How do you do that? You talk to who? They're what? They're dead? And I'm like, well, yeah, they're in spirit, but nobody's really dead. And so she said, well, can you, if I hand you a picture, can you read a picture? Can you do this? Can you do that? She's asking me a whole list of things. And I'm saying, yes, most of the time, maybe, sometimes, I don't know. And she handed me a picture that was from Elizabeth's Christmas card. Well, I just moved here and I didn't know anybody except some family members. And the picture was of Morgan and his two sisters, Christine and Alix. And Alix is on the call right now. And I said, I was just about to explain to her, well, if I read a picture, I don't know what that's going to prove to you. But when she put the picture in my hand, immediately Morgan came in with his arms out like this in this big light and started just downloading information, piece after piece after piece after piece. And the yoga studio owner couldn't confirm much of it. I don't know, I'll write it down. I don't know, I'll write it down. I don't know, I'll write it down. I enjoyed seeing him and meeting him, but I had no way to know. And I thought, wow, this is a waste. Will you please contact this young man's family? And she said, of course I'm going to do that. They never expected to hear anything. Then I hear from Elizabeth. Do you want to take it from there, Elizabeth?
Yes, actually, she called me at home that night and she said, I had somebody come to the office, but I don't believe in mediums. And I just wrote everything down that she told me, and maybe we can have lunch tomorrow. Would you like to? And I said, I don't want to, I'll have lunch with you. I don't want to wait till tomorrow to find out what she told you. And so it turned out that she told me so many things that were exactly true. One of them was that he was on a mountain, that he was lying on the mountain, that he had a black box up to his ear, and that he said, I love you back. And if anyone knows my story, Morgan passed at the base camp of Mount Everest. And I had asked his roommate to put the cell phone up to his ear, and I told him that we loved him, that we were proud of him, and not to be afraid. And at that time, he wasn't breathing, and he didn't say anything to me, but I felt him hug me from the inside. And so to hear that he said he loved me back was so significant, because that's exactly what Morgan always said, and the fact that he had this black box up to his ear. And I wasn't there for the reading. Secondly, she said that we were going to get a rock from the place that Morgan passed. and she drew the rock on a piece of paper, and it was split in the middle. And we didn't get that rock for a month because of the fact that the kids didn't come back from China until then. And it turned out that his roommate brought that exact rock. It looked exactly like the drawing that Susanne had done. She said that he was with a band of brothers, 2 others, and the 2 roommates that he was with actually stayed in Lhasa and waited for my husband because it took 8 days for him to be able to get a visa to get into Tibet to be able to get Morgan. She told so much evidence. She saw him shouting from a mountaintop through a megaphone, "I'm okay." And he was a cheerleader for the University of Arizona, and that megaphone was part of his service. They gave it to us. But he definitely shouted through that megaphone a lot, and he's one of our biggest cheerleaders now. But all of this was so amazing to me because I wasn't there. So she wasn't picking up on any energy. She didn't know who I was. She had no idea. And it was so important to me because of the fact that I had gotten that hug a few days before, and I was wondering about, could this all be true? Or is this crazy what I just felt? So I knew it was true. So anyway, that was very significant. We have other stories here, or other questions here that I was going to ask. Christine was asking about a good book about soul planning. And I wrote in the chat box, Rob Schwartz. I wanted to mention here, Susanne, the fact that you're part of the series Life to Afterlife, and that the 4th one is specifically about your teaching, but you're in the Life to Afterlife, Mom, Can You Hear Me? You're in the 2nd one as well, Life to Afterlife, I Died, What Next? You're in the 3rd one, I believe, on soul planning as well. Is that correct? Or
I don't think so.
okay.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure, but you are in the 4th one, and it's specifically about you.
It's not out yet, though. It's not on Amazon. And it's funny because it's on Vimeo, but it's not on Amazon yet. And I think it's just going to come out at exactly the right time. But he interviews 5 of my students, just normal, regular, everyday people learning how to direct connect. And some work at this. I'm in this field, and others just learned for themselves. But it's just showing how anyone can learn how to direct connect, and it's their stories. It's pretty cool.
Well, hopefully it'll be out soon, but it's already out on Vimeo. So it's available on Vimeo, and it should be on Amazon Prime sometime soon as well. But a lot of the people who are on here have seen the Life to Afterlife series. I'm just looking at the other questions that we have here. Let's see.
That's a funny story too with the Life to Afterlife series, because I turned them down at first, and I said, I don't know. I don't talk to producers. I don't do anything. You guys, because I'm so skeptical of what they do because of all the scary TV shows. And I'm like, no, no, no. And I know a couple people on the board were going, she said no. But I explained, I just don't trust them. They'll film you for 5 or 6 hours, and then they'll use little snippets of things you say in a bunch of scary shows later. And that's happened to a lot of people. This producer is a gem. His name is Craig McMahon, and it's his own experience with being a bereaved sibling and wanting to share things that are helpful, hopeful, and healing, that he is just, I think he's got some genius going on. I really do, let alone the good heart. And I'm so glad, Elizabeth, you chased me to do this.
Well, I wasn't going to let you not do it, so I'm glad that you did.
I don't think Morgan would have let me off the hook either.
Yes. Well, we have some other questions. Claudia, who I think has already worked with you, said, I can connect pretty well with writing, but I'm not very confident with other stuff I get. Thanks. So she's asking about, I guess, other ways to connect besides writing.
Claudia, I know. Claudia, yeah, but you write like beautiful prose and almost like poetry from your son in spirit. So, you know, it's kind of like, I painted the Mona Lisa, but I'm not really good at this other thing. So have a hard time feeling for you there. But I will say, to exercise other abilities that you have, one of the things that you can do is identify the center that's very strong in your energy field already, and meditate on that and send light from that center to the other centers. For example, when I've always been, my whole life, I've been very, very clairvoyant. And so one of the meditations that I started to do early on was to focus on the light here from the brow chakra, or they call it the third eye chakra, which is a center of intuitive intelligence, but clairvoyance as well. And to send the light from there, starting at my root and moving all the way up all of my energy centers. I want to send some of the strength from here to my energy centers. And after I did that several times, I started to feel the energy fields. And I would first start with my hands over my root chakra, and I'm bringing energy, bringing it up. And I could feel, like, I got to my throat one day, and I can remember going, and I was sitting in a class, I was sitting actually in a development circle back then. I remember getting to my throat chakra, and I felt a bump. And I actually felt my hands almost like repelled out. And I'm like, wow, I think I just got like a jolt in my throat chakra. Sure enough, the next thing that started unfolding for me was my clairaudience, or clear hearing of spirit, which comes through the throat chakra. So it's about what you focus on, and where you want to send energy. Again, you have to remember that the physical body is part of the intuitive intelligence as well. The physical body, it's like buying a new car and you got this really amazing GPS, but you never use it. Oh, wow, too bad. You got a free Sirius XM radio subscription, but you never turn it on, and you never listen to all of the intelligence or entertainment or silliness, or you don't get any value from it. Oh wow. So your physical body has energy centers that connect into the soul self, the higher self. So you really want to focus on the energy centers. I just filmed for a documentary with some really well-respected folks from the Heart Math Institute and Dean Radin out in Hollywood in February, right before the pandemic, in fact. And I noticed some of the scientists were saying, oh, hogwash on this energy centers thing. You don't have to meditate on your chakras and you just will it and intend it. And I'm like, well, they're right. You don't have to do that. But the point I made was, why wouldn't you use every tool in your toolbox? Why wouldn't you do everything in your power to strengthen your centers? So, a little friendly feedback there.
That's beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad Claudia was on there. Okay. I also just wanted to quickly say we have only a few more minutes, but Badisha is asking a question that's very interesting. And I think it ties in with what you were speaking about. My daughter gives my husband very strong signs, but he flits in and out of accepting it. How does this fall into place for him to accept, as my little girl really wants him to believe, as she is really close to him? And this is very hard for him, as it is just 2.5 months.
Oh, is she still on? Yeah, she's still here. Can I hear her voice?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, it's pretty early in India, so I'm still
really early in India. We were looking at times for this class in July. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, you've had your tea already, I take it?
Yes, just gonna have it. It's 6:45.
Okay, so you have one child in spirit and you have a little girl here in physical?
No, I just have one child in spirit.
Okay, so it's your child in spirit that's letting you know, I really want dad to know it's me. That's who's telling you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the deal. You've probably heard this saying, an axiom or saying as we have here, Rome wasn't built in a day. And this is going to take time. This is going to take time. And she went in the spirit world how long ago? Just a couple months ago?
Yes, middle of Feb.
Okay. So I can pick this up instantly. And it does make sense, is that the grief sometimes can be a little bit of a barrier. Okay. the grieving process itself is really awful, but it's part of the human experience that we're meant to have. And I have a guide of yours talking to my guide saying, I need to tell you this, that your husband needs to process his grief first before he can celebrate the signs, before he can celebrate the sense of her. It's really when he's in his own way and time of processing, because everybody is different. And he's right now, it's almost painful to get a sign. It's almost like, but that's not enough. But I need more. And some people stay in that, they can't celebrate or realize the fullness and the richness of the experience of the presence of the spirit child, the spirit loved one yet, just 2 months in. I think you're amazing because you're sitting here with a smile on your face as we talk about this. So I know that you feel her presence, and I see that light shining through you already. But with your husband, you are going to have to be patient. And your guide is also saying that he's not a non-believer. It's just the grief for him right now. One thing that you can do for him, and you don't have to mention this now, let it be a nice surprise for him later. Don't hide it, but you don't have to announce it. Keep a diary for him of the things you witness that he's experiencing, in terms of the thoughts, or I felt her, or I had a dream about her. Keep that for him and present it to him later when he's ready. Another thing that you can do, and this is good for everybody listening, get a meditation buddy with you, preferably a family member or another bereaved parent who just lets you talk without judgment or interrupting you. And you guys meditate together. You do not have to be in the same room. And that's the beauty of things like Zoom. Get a meditation buddy and do a meditation to connect with your children, each of you at the same time together. Choose a time, choose a date, where two or more are gathered, there am I. The power of the unity, of the expression of the oneness of two people coming together to connect with spirit raises the vibration. It amps up to another frequency. And how I've seen this unfold is, let's say you meet your fellow bereaved parent on Zoom. You've already told your loved ones, your children, you've already told them we're getting together, it's going to be fun, it's next Wednesday, it's at 10 a.m. in New Delhi or wherever, and we're going to meet you at the park or someplace that you each know that your kids loved. And then when you get into your meditation together, call out your experiences to each other. So let's say your eyes are closed. Most people like to do this with their eyes closed. It's easier for them. And so you call out, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this, I'm feeling, seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, simply knowing, and share with each other. And what I have found, it's really interesting, is that a parent can pick up on the other parent's child and strengthen that connection for them. And the kids are having a blast, whatever age they are, 5 or 50, they have a blast too, because they're working together. They will actually go to some place, we've heard them called halls. I've heard them called halls of reunions. That's the terminology I've used. There's a place they go where they meet up with people in spirit whose job it is to help get the communication through. They'll rehearse on how they get their energy through to you. But try that out. Leave your husband to be for right now on how he processes. Keep notes for him of things that he tells you. Try to not let your heart sink when he says, I got the dream visit, but I don't know. I don't know if it's real or it wasn't enough or whatever. Do not let your vibration come down with that. In that moment when you feel, oh, I'm sinking, when I hear that, remember she's right there and watching, make her proud. Keep in the light.
Thank you so much.
I know. I see the light shining through you. Look at you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Vidisha. And we're running out of time, but Susan is asking one final question maybe, and it's kind of interesting. She's saying that whenever she gets really upset about her son, she gets a sharp pain in her third eye. What is the reason for this? Do you have an answer to that?
Upset in what way? Like grieving in a moment of grief?
I would assume, but Susan, would you like to unmute yourself and maybe let her know?
Yes, when I'm like crying and very upset.
Okay, and Mother's Day is coming up, and then Father's Day is coming up.
Well,
So,
my son just passed in January too, so it's all still kind of fresh, but.
Yep. Oh boy. So, okay, I call it a knock on the aura. And people who have been in my classes will even see me go, oh, wait a second, my guide's knocking on my aura. He's getting my attention. And the way I feel it, it's almost like a tug on my energy over here. Yours is going to be like right here. Like it's literally a, hey, hello, I'm right here. It is what you're getting. And it's not painful, is it? It's just uncomfortable to where you notice it.
Yes.
Yes, hello.
Heightening.
So, my suggestion is to say thank you. I know that was you. I'm glad that you're here. I'm having a shitty day. And so I really appreciate your being here and acknowledging what I'm going through right now. I mean, let's be real about this. Talk to them like you would if they're in the room, because guess what?
Yeah.
They are. Exactly. Just tell them how you're feeling. It doesn't, you have to be who you are and to always just soldier on and be stoic and hold it all in. It does not do anyone any good. First off, our loved ones in spirit know what's going on with us emotionally, regardless of how we act externally or how we express it. And sometimes you need a little bit of an energy drain off or a dump like that, and just say, this is an awful day, and I'm so glad that you're here. And so I think you're one of the fortunate ones that gets the knock on the aura. For a lot of people, that'll be the block. That'll be the day they get nothing, only because they can't notice it right then. But
Right.
Still, trust and talk. Trust that even though if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, on the days I'm upset, I get nothing. Trust that that day is just about crying, but talk to them. Because remember the metaphor of it's like the TV down the hall in the other room. If you're celebrating or sobbing, either one, they're there. Talk to them and tell them how you feel. It's not just therapeutic and it's not just psychological. It's acknowledging their presence, and that'll help you a lot. But I hope you continue to get the little.
Okay, thank you.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much,
I learned something
Suzanne.
every time I'm around this group. Every time I learn something new from you guys. You're the greatest teachers in the world.
It's pretty amazing to have that happen, Susan. Kind of exciting. I know it's a little scary, but it's nice to know that it's your son coming through. Thank you so much, Suzanne. And I think that what we're going to do now is to wrap this up. But before we do, I'd like to unmute everyone and have them thank you themselves and say goodbye and good night. And I just feel so grateful that you were able to come and speak to us in spite of the fact that you weren't a keynote at the conference this year. You're a keynote in spirit here on this Zoom. So everyone's saying goodbye and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep shining.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Suzanne.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good to see everybody. And that was wonderful. And this will be available tomorrow on YouTube for everyone, just so that you know. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.